Good morning, everybody. My name is Renan. I'm President of the Brazilian Association of Data Centers and also CEO from Boost. And I would like to welcome here my fellow panelists here, starting with Rafael, Bomeny, CFO from ODATA. President from Equinix, Brazil. Siqueira, which is Chief Revenue Officer from Ascenty. Alessandro, Lombardi, President from Elea Data Centers. Clayton, Malheiros, CFO from Scala Data Centers. So just for everybody to understand a little bit, we have some new folks that maybe doesn't know your role or your company. If you can just have a brief introduction from yourselves. I know the company speaks to itself, but at least it's fine as we have finance market and some new entrants in the industry. So if you can start, Rafael.
Yes, sure. So my name is Rafael, one of the co-founders and CFO at ODATA. So ODATA is a platform that covers basically Latin America. We are part of Aligned. So today we have presence in Brazil, Mexico, Chile, Colombia, and Peru.
So my name is Victor. I'm the managing director of Equinix in Brazil. Equinix in LATAM, we are present in 5 countries, 7 cities, but we are like in more than 35 countries all over the globe, more than 270 data centers.
I'm Marco Siqueira. Nowadays I'm Chief Revenue Officer and Head Office Strategy. I'm working with Ascenty since the beginning, and nowadays Ascenty present in Brazil, Chile, Mexico, and Brazil, Chile, Mexico, and Colombia. And nowadays we have 24 data centers in operation. We are a joint venture between Digital Realty and Brookfield.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Alessandro Lombardi, Chairman and founder of Elea Data Center. Elea Data Center is a Brazilian data center company. We focus on Brazil. We run 9 data centers in the country.
Good morning, I'm Clayton, I'm CFO of Scala. Scala is a data center operation from investment from Digital Bridge. We have operations in Brazil, Chile, Mexico, and Colombia. The company was founded 5 years ago.
Fantastic. So thank you. We have many of the big players from the market. There's still a few missing in this table, but I think to get the idea from the general picture, we want to approach in this panel, which is a general overview, and definitely this will be very important for us all, and I think we have a very good weight here. It's a pleasure for me to moderate this. Thank you for it. So we started with the questions about sector overview and the market trends for us to understand. Up to now, according to Data Center Hawk, Latin America data center market has 1.2 gigawatts of operational IT load, with 260 megawatts currently under construction. This represents approximately $14 billion in investments by only the operators of data centers. Much more will represent in terms of IT investments in hardware and so on. So considering this point, I will start here from my left here also with Rafael. What has driven this growth so far, and will these types of application continue to drive the market expansion going forward? So this question, if you can, both of you also can add, but starting with Rafael here, I think it's nice the point of view, because everything that we have seen so far, it is not AI. Your company has existing for a long time ago. So.
Yeah, so basically when we started ODATA, we have just Ascenty at the time covering the hyperscale market. So the idea was really to compete with Ascenty, and most of the vector of growth there was cloud, and that's still. So we still see like a lot of demand coming from the cloud. Initially, it was much more Brazil, other than other Latin American countries. And then I believe together with Ascenty and Equinix, we started to like expand to other Latin American countries. So we expanded to Chile, to Mexico, and mostly enabling our customer to deploy cloud in those countries. So still, as you mentioned, we believe that cloud is still the most important vector right now. Obviously, with AI, what we'll see is like inference for AI will probably bring much more growth, but still on the cloud.
Yeah, so completely agree with Rafael. And one important aspect that we considered since 2015 was the growth of interconnection, like local interconnection in the region, right? Because before, like probably around 2010, we were like consuming content from the United States. Only 5% of the content was like intra-Latin America. And according to telegeography, these numbers are now close to 30%, which means that we have like a lot of local content now being consumed and generated in LATAM. Brazil is the leader, of course, but other countries are following, like Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, Argentina is an interesting place as well. But I think, end of the day, if you have like more users consuming data and generating data in real time, we're going to need data centers close to the user. And that's what brought not only Equinix, ODATA, and Ascenty, but the cloud players to LATAM as well, I think.
I'd like to add only that for sure the AI can be a game changer in this process, but it's important to understand that the cloud is still growing, and on the other hand, enterprise companies still working with data center like us, for example. Nowadays, less than 50% of the enterprise segment, is still working with the legacy data center in their house. Then there are so many opportunities for AI, cloud, and enterprise.
Yeah, and I think when we say cloud, it's not only like a public cloud, right? We're talking about hybrid projects. So that's the market is growing in one. It's two digits for sure. It's not only
Fantastic. So this is important because it's something that will be not in some cloud computing. It will not compete with AI or vice versa.
It's not going away. I think the point is not going away. AI is going to be on top of cloud, you know. So
you need database to grow AI.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Would like you guys to comment on that?
Yeah, it's important to mention that with the level of employment that we see today, Brazil is in the low level, at least for the last 10, 20 years. So productivity it's going to be key. And the investments from the companies that use the enterprise or even use the hyperscalers to support them, they'll need to invest much more. And with that, for sure, the demand for data center will increase. And important to reinforce, AI is on top of that. We are not discussing and the opportunity to continue to grow in a double-digit level is considering only cloud and only all the things that we already have today. So the boom that we can happen in the country and the region, it's much higher when we think about what can, if we enable AI, mainly Brazil, to be the hub, a hub for data centers, a global hub, it's going to be key. And there's a lot of things being done, but some that need to be done in the future in order to guarantee that we will be competing for this demand, this global demand.
Awesome, because actually when you see what we have done so far, as we were talking, Rafael just mentioned that you've seen Ascenty as a competitor. They were only starting in the wholesale market. But when you see that the structure of the industry, more important players, a robust structure and supply chain and organized, this also drove a lot of the growth that we have seen so far. If you would have only one or two players, different than we have now, a very well-structured industry in Brazil and Latin America, I think this has also brought a lot of attention to the market as well, right?
Yes, for sure. So the market is much more mature if we compare when we started 10 years ago. So we have like today like 5 players here operations and operating for hyperscale providers. And for sure, we have like much other ventures starting and trying to capture. We do believe that there's space for a lot of players, given the growth that we are foreseeing as well.
Oh, definitely. It's different eggs in different bags, right? Baskets. So going on this, now talking a little bit more about the future. Also, according to Data Center Hawk, Latin American market is expected to grow by more than 4 gigawatts only in IT part, right? Coming to the next years, what is equivalent to, again, for operators of data center, an investment greater than $40 billion in infrastructure alone. So, Alessandro, what do you think is fueling this expansion, and where do you see the most underdeveloped or high potential areas for investment?
Thank you for the question. I first of all believe, referring to the first question, that the Latin American market is much smaller than it could be. 1 gigawatt for a continent of 500 million people is too low. We depend on the United States for our cloud workloads, and that's why Brazil or other countries were not able to build a proper investment attraction policy for data centers. So Brazil today is arguably the most expensive country in the world to run data centers because of the importation taxes, the tariffs, more than 50% on tariffs for computers in Brazil right now. So the higher cost for data center is the depreciation of IT equipment. So if you have 50% penalty on that, it's a lot. That's why it has not grown so much. It's not grown so much. And looking for the future, I understand the Brazilian state, not only the government, but Congress, judiciary, are all in favor of having a strong data center market. So I understand these tariffs are planning to go down. I've seen the cover page of the Tech Capital magazine, our finance minister. That's very important that he can do what he has announced. I think it's a matter of days. So once you get this investment attraction policy in place, and you have a proper governance for artificial intelligence, then you can see a market that can really boost and grow. I agree on the numbers that you've mentioned. However, I have some doubt of our ability to really build 5 gigawatt in 2 years or 3 years. It's easy to say, very hard to do. If you look at the German market, for example, they were able to reach 3 gigawatt in 10 years. So imagine that Brazil probably is going to get to this number, but not as quick as people say. And I don't think that it's going to be so easy to host artificial intelligence. We have a very big project in Rio de Janeiro. Other players here have other large projects. However, the regulation of AI in Brazil really needs to change the mindset of the Congress. Otherwise, it's not going to be easy.
No, definitely. We have about 600 megawatts of IT load in Brazilian commercial data center. So if you think about doubling the size of it, it's already a tremendous amount. We have building this structure for years, right? So it makes completely sense. The idle capacity, it's not there. We have full data centers are full, but in order to grow that in that base, we need a lot of things to happen. Clayton, would you like to also comment on a bit more about the future? Where do you see this future potential coming from for Brazil and Latin America?
Yeah. No, I believe that we have some regions in Latam that will grow, not only Brazil. Chile is another country that has a lot of opportunities. They are a little bit ahead of us because some of the discussions that we're still having here, they are a little bit ahead of us in terms of regulation and things like that. So it's a small advantage. Subsea cable, the connection that they will have there soon will help the country to develop and to generate more demand there. But we have some other place that can leverage on this. In Brazil, we have Fortaleza, which is another region that can grow. Colombia is a good market, still a little bit behind, and for sure Mexico, because of how close it is from a big market like US, is another big opportunity. Of course, there are some issues there regarding power, but if we consider all these things, Brazil has some advantage, mainly regarding power availability, the quality of the grid, the possibility of a lower PUE. If we go to cold regions like Rio Grande do Sul, where we have a big plant there, that can help in order to have more better KPIs to offer to our customers. What we believe it's really important for them. So it's a very big region with different opportunities coming from everywhere, and with the growth of the local markets, the local economies, that we hopefully we believe that will happen for the next cycle. Our business will grow with them. So if this kind of growth happens, we will be together. There is no growth without data centers. There is no possibility to do it. Latency is key, so to be close to the customers, and probably some regions that today are not in the map of data centers will demand some new projects, because we see some developments, and to support them from regions that are not so close is not a good option. So we will see some developments happening closer to the demand.
Siqueira, do you agree that most of the drive would be our economy also here, or you think also we can serve other countries as a hub of data center for long?
Yeah, I agree that Brazil can be the main country in Latin America for sure. First of all, because we have a lot of power. We have an issue regarding the transmission line. It's true, but we have a lot of power, and our matrix is almost 90% of it's renewable. For sure, this is a huge advantage. On the other hand, we have a lot of submarine cables arriving in Brazil in different locations. São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Ceará, Fortaleza. There are so many plants to arrive in more cables, and for sure. And also, building on the Rafael comments, Brazil is more mature regarding the data centers. We have a lot of data centers in operation here, and this is the reason that I understand that we are in a good way. But for sure, Chile, regarding the taxation, made a good job. But Mexico, because the nearshoring can be a good option. But again, Brazil, if we work in this regard, if we fix the situation regarding the tax, Brazil can be by far the best place to be. But there are so many challenges that we are working together to fix with the government. But there are so many countries in Latin America, like Chile, like Mexico. If Brazil stop here, this country can attract a lot of data centers to be there, because the tax can be the worst case scenario with the situation that we have nowadays.
And just to important point, the opportunity is now. Maybe it's not this, considering the size of the opportunity, it's not going to be available if Brazil doesn't do the homework today. Other countries will do. And we will need to keep the growth. We will still have the opportunity to grow, but not in the level of the size of the opportunity that we see today. So it's important to do it fast. It's a digital. So in the digital world, you need to work fast.
Oh, fantastic. As we were talking before the panel, it's just to people to understand there's two scenarios here. One, that what has drove this industry so far will keep driving it, and the data centers that need to come for low latency and to explore the domestic economy and the population and so on will keep coming because they need to, because the application, but we are talking about ODATA and other tax benefits. It's in order to increase the demand and for Brazil to play a bigger role in Latin America or globally as a data center hub, and then to export the services. Of course, everything will leverage our industry growth in terms of Industry 4.0. Everything, it's data center, it's we need IT part, and so this will leverage all the economy as a whole. But if also if that doesn't come, doesn't mean that the market will not keep growing as data center. It's it is to stay and to keep growing as a digital economy, right?
I think we're discussing here an opportunity to be one of the global hubs of AI, right? So, and it's not only about taxation, but we need to talk about AI regulation as well, because, okay, if it's less expensive to bring the GPUs to Brazil, but how we're going to treat international data in our facilities, right? So it's like a sum of things that we need to deal with, and I agree with Clayton and Siqueira that timing is not on our side, because other countries are moving faster than us, not only in LATAM, but in other regions as well.
Exactly. So if we don't take those steps that Victor mentioned in terms of tax, in terms of regulation, also like all those changes that we are seeing in the power sector right now with the other taxes like IOF in the case of Brazil, so probably will foster like the development of other countries in terms of AI. So we are seeing a lot of demand from Mexico. So for us, I believe it's where most of the growth is coming from. Obviously, they have the challenge that power there is harder to get, but once you are able to get the power, the demand is really there, because it's really like 2 hours from the US, like in a flight, and latency is really fine. It's like we have 7 different backbones connecting Querétaro to the US today, so it's really easy to connect. So if we don't move really fast here in Brazil, probably we'll see other countries taking advantage of that and taking that capacity that's not dependent on the location and latency.
Colombia is an interesting example because they have like free trade zones already. So it's you can import GPUs without import taxation. And the renewables there are not like as, it's not 90% as Brazil, but it's like around 60%. So it's an interesting place to consider if you don't need the latency, you know, and if you want to serve other countries. You're seeing like an interesting growth in Colombia, in Bogota.
I just want to introduce a new word in this very interesting panel, which is inference. What I hear from the United States is that these AI deployments that we are seeing now, the core ones, machine learning, it's only the first wave. Inference is going to come, and apparently it's going to be much larger than we think, and for sure it's going to be larger than the core. And when you look at Brazil with 250 million people, it's uncomparable to me to Chile or to any other Latin American country other than Mexico probably, but they have the power issue. So when you look at a longer time period, there's no doubt to me that Brazil is going to be a giant in Latin America and very important at the global level, longer term.
Just a small point here, you know, and it's important to mention discussing about the future and considering not if it's going to happen, but when it's going to happen. Another important fact, I can see some colleagues here from the finance, from the banks. So to think how to support the companies to develop products that we see in other countries, mainly US, that it's much more difficult to use it to finance the development of Brazil, even in other countries, is another key important thing. So we we could develop so far. So the growth in the last 3-4 years was great. But if we think about how to prepare for this kind of growth in the future, we need to think about how to finance this. So the structure of the finance, the banks, the projects that are available for this industry, and the idea of using US products or teams that support us from US, they don't know a lot about the LATAM, how the business, how sometimes we need to educate them about the data center business, the local teams, but when we discuss with the teams that are more data center driven, they don't know about the region, and they try to copy and paste what they do there, and sometimes it's not the best idea. So how to do this kind of improvement, considering the relationship and how important is the structure to finance this kind of growth. You said $14 billion. If we think about another $14 billion, how to finance this in the future? But we did $14 billion in 20-30 years. So if you think about this kind of development in the next 5 years, we need to solve and to find solutions for this.
Definitely, and this is why I think it's so important, this kind of event, that we are also broadening the involvement, not only the technical part, not only the commercial part, but also the financing part, because it's everything, it's like a cluster. We have other events which are also grouping the energy, because we have also idle energy capacity in Brazil. But we need to work all together. I understand that the maturity of the finance industry in Brazil is not as advanced for data center application as they have in the US, and we are not also in a tier 1 country as US as well, so you need to think out of the box to organize that. But mostly, I think the financing that we have seen, it's majorly from abroad, right? All the capital that is coming for the data center, either if it's end customer, but also as the private equity or funds or so on. It's mostly from US or Canada or Singapore or so on. Am I correct?
Yeah, so when you think about equity, for sure, so I believe most of the capital here comes from US and maybe other regions, but mostly from the US. When you think about that, then it's, I believe, part of the companies here are financing abroad with like MUFG and other players, and part of the companies are financing locally using obviously hedges to adjust for the FX. So I believe like in the commercial banks here, I believe we were able to educate, so they are familiar with the market. What we do need to develop, it's much more the next step, right? So the ABSs that we have in the US, that we can offload the balance sheet from the banks, that's something that's not as mature here in LATAM, and would be an important instrument going forward, because the amount of investment that we are talking is really huge, right? So if you are thinking of a 100 megawatt data center, that today is, I would say, is the standard, and we're talking about $1 billion. So it's really a massive investment, and we need to like solve for the equity and for the debt for that project, and really fast, because when you sign an agreement, you need to deliver in 14 months, 12 months, so you don't have much time to put that structure in place.
This is an important aspect, because you're talking about $1 billion investment in a 100 megawatt data center, but that's only the infrastructure. What you see, I know it's out of the scope here, but also the financing goes also to your customers?
I believe they are well capitalized. For sure, they don't have that issue.
Yeah, inside.
Yeah.
Maybe in the retail market, it's a little bit different.
It's a bit different. So, but I think the market, at least in Brazil, the market evolved really well in the last 10 years. So they have options not only from commercial banks, but from banks connected to the hardware company or to the software company. So I think that the ecosystem developed really well. Other countries are following our steps here in Brazil. But I think I mean, of course we can do better as an ecosystem, as a cluster of like sectors. But we are in good shape compared to 10 years ago.
No, fantastic.
I have, if you allow me, I'm gonna tell a strange story. Yesterday I was in Brasilia. I met, by case, in the morning with the finance minister, ABDC. He asked me because we met, we were all there in Palo Alto. So I said, how is going the data center? I said, it's growing. You know what he said to me? He said, I don't know how you can grow with such an high interest rate. And I really didn't, I was like with my mouth open. I didn't even know what to say to him because he should be one of the ones to the kids. But the reality is that, and here there are Banco do Brasil and Bradesco, they are long-term financial sponsors of Elea data centers in Brazil. We have done more than 1.5 billion reais nominated transaction in Brazil. For some of years it's small, for us it's a lot, and I really don't know how we can afford to pay 15% base rate plus CD on that, doing investments, and therefore the capital becomes very important. I think here is Elea is the only company in this panel where the capital is majority Brazilian. We have Goldman Sachs as a partner, equity partner, but it's a Brazilian company, so all the capital for the data center companies come from abroad, because there is no possibility today, with the cost of capital we have today, to really finance growth. So as Clayton said, the capital needs to come from outside. So this is a broader issue of the Brazilian market. However, I understand that if we focus on showing compliance, avoid litigation, avoid the bad competition, attacking each other, then you can grow a market which is healthy and is seen as normal.
I think that Scala also has, most of you also have to do something more creative. Like I see real estate industry also approaching a lot the market as well. It's one of the market with financing and credit, but also partnering with the real estate industry, something that it's a trend, right?
Yeah. We've tried to use some kind of new ideas to recycle the capital and to support the investment, considering that, for example, ABS, which is the most used in the US, and is starting to be used in Europe and Asia. We saw some transactions of ABS. So because of this,
what's ABS?
ABS?
What's
it's a kind of digitisation.
I don't know.
Okay. This, considering that we don't have this possibility here in the local market, we are trying to use some kind of different ideas. So the idea of selling some assets is an idea to recycle the capital. We just finished a project finance in Chile, so that's something that for the data centers that we are developing there, and we believe it's feasible to do different things. So what I mentioned here is we need to think and to educate the market and to show that it's a very good opportunity for investors. We are talking about a AAA US project, and sometimes we need to have to present and to educate the market. And sometimes people know, but it's not 100% that. No, you need to believe that, like we believe, because we are doing a lot of investment considering this, so it does make sense to you guys from the finance industry not to understand how to consider this. But sometimes we need to, it takes time, and sometimes we don't have a lot of time to discuss for a month, 2 months, to present and to guarantee that everybody is the same page about the quality of the credit. We have a very good quality of credit in terms of the data, but we need all the stakeholders need to understand this.
So, as far as understood so far, we have the opportunity ahead. We have challenges. I think liquidity in data center market is not a problem, so how we are going to do it is something that maybe need more creativity. What caught my attention is really about bottleneck of growth in Latin America, especially Brazil. It's regulation. I think this is something which we have all agree that it must be IT regulation. It doesn't matter if you have industry, supply chain, tax, or whatever. If the AI is not beneficial. Also, access to energy. I think that this is the speed up the process. That's something also important for us to use this idle capacity. But in terms of other kinds of challenges or potential or untapped potential, what is your point of view? If you could do anything, would be possible to grow the market. You've got the tax benefit, energy, renewable energy is not a problem. Is there anything else as an industry you can collaborate and work together to make it happen?
I can start. So developing talent, not only on the data center space, but on the AI space. If we want to really be like one of the global hubs, we need to start developing talent from the infrastructure perspective. I was talking with Rafael and Siqueira before the panel. We have things to do, but we also need to engage Brascon and other associations to develop the whole sector, and develop the cities we are like, where we have data centers or where we are going to deploy data centers, because the ecosystem as a whole, there's a lot of power there. We can do a lot of good to the communities around us in those cities. What do you think, Siqueira?
Yeah, I completely agree, and for sure, I think this is the best moment that we can work together as an industry, because based on the experience, each company work alone, but it's a good moment to work together to address like matters like this regarding the workforce. And also can be a difficult is a supply chain, because the digital infrastructure needs to be ready right now, and maybe the lead time to receive the equipments can be a challenge for all, because after I understand that if this situation regarding the ODATA going on, and we for sure we hope so, after that I understand that a lot of international projects will start to be here in Brazil, and the supply chain in that moment can be a challenge for all the industry in Latin America.
In the supply chain in terms of equipment, construction, or everything?
Equipment, for sure, can be, because at this moment in Brazil and Latin America, we are waiting for new demand, but in US, for example, there are so many data centers under construction at this moment, but the supply chain is the same, and for sure this is can be a challenge for the data center market in a few years.
But my view is if we solve for taxation, if we solve for AI regulation, like supply chain is one that we can tackle together with the suppliers, right? So it's I'm much more afraid of the things that we can't control, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I agree, it could be a challenge, but at least this one we can work and solve for.
Yes, to me it's as well 100% the issue is regulation. I participate to the Forum of Cooperation for AI of the Brookings Institute in Washington. I've seen recently a paper showing that investment in artificial intelligence in Latin America are 0.1% of total investment. 0.1%, it's inexistent, zero, there is zero. And there are 3 projects in Congress in Brazil right now to regulate that. So our view is that you should let the technology work come to Brazil, to Latin America, see how it develops, see how the communities, how the society accept or uses the technology, and then regulate. So if this approach will end up being the one that Brazil and other Latin American countries adapt, then you're going to see a huge deployments in this country. Otherwise, if we choose the European way of regulating or over-regulating, you're going to see a slowdown. Europe was second only to the US as a market, and now is in third place, going to fourth place because of excessive regulation.
Very good. I think we have covered mostly of it. I just didn't understand yet, if anybody can comment, the importance of a backbone connecting major countries. We see 25-year-old subsea fiber. Would that also represent a significant improvement in our potential if we have more cables or coming to other places than Ceará or something like that? Or what we have is enough for us to serve Latin America as a data center hub?
I can go first, yeah. But my friend here, he has the whole network, so he can add, he can help. But I think from the interconnection perspective, we in LATAM, we have like the Global Interconnection Index, right? The study we do every year. So we in LATAM, we are growing like 50% per year on volume of interconnection. And this is happening inside not only our data centers, but all data centers here. And we're talking about like private interconnection and public traffic exchange as ix.br. If you follow through like the traffic on ix.br, like 5 years ago, it was less than 10 terabits, maybe 5 terabits, and it's now 40 terabits. So connectivity, I mean, we are going to need more connectivity, I think, but more connectivity intra-regional and international as well, connecting LATAM to other regions. I think we have a panel here today about the subsea cables, right, connecting, and we have like the L-Link cable connecting South America to Europe. We are going to have like other options in Chile as well, but it needs to come together. It's not only the data center segment that we need to develop to get this opportunity, to enjoy this opportunity, but all the ecosystem, the cluster. We need to think about the energy sector, the connectivity sector, the application sector, the AI sector. Everyone needs to work together so we can develop the country and the region.
Yeah, cover everywhere. But I think it's important to mention that there are so many submarine cable new that is coming. And also is coming for different locations, not only for Brazil, for São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and Fortaleza. I'm so confident that Brazil is ready to take advantage with this moment, and the connectivity can be an important part of the ecosystem that we can accelerate this process in Brazil and Latin America.
Oh, I'm very excited about our future. I think the challenges are quite clear. But if you can, everybody just do the final statement about, okay, what is your perspective, what do you think that is the moment, and the last message. I think everybody just give the last message. I think we are finalizing the... Oh, we have audience questions as well. Okay. So you'd like to do that already? Okay, so how it works? So we are open for questions. How many questions? 1 or 2 questions. We have time for that. And if there's anybody who would like to address a question for the panelists here.
How about geopolitics? Yes, so in terms of geopolitics, comparing, for example, Chile with Brazil, for example, how the US approach the stance, how Brazil, for example, in terms of BRICS, yeah, if you have any intake on that, maybe 1 or 2 of you guys.
I can. Brazil has always been a very neutral country, friends to everybody, never entered into a war. I believe it's that very few, 100 years ago, so it's a very neutral country. And the new policies of the US government on tariffs are very beneficial to Brazil data center market, because we have become suddenly more competitive compared to the US market, because they have tariffs that they didn't have. So there were it's not involved as of today in the trade war at all. the federal government has chosen a way of dealing with the new U.S. administration without confrontation. You've seen nobody's saying nothing, so it's being quiet. So if Brazil continues to be neutral, geopolitics, these turmoils of the global turmoils will end up being in favor of Brazil, which is one of the few countries which is not involved in anything is happening. And with regards to Chile, I have to say that I know that there are good investment policies, but they are not comparable, because you're talking about 250 or 220 million people country with a much smaller economy, much smaller country, very important for interconnection to Asia, but in terms of size of the market, they are not comparable.
Yes, the thing may be like, if you take like Chile, for example, it's one that stability that they have and the friendly regulation to investments enable them to, like, obviously it's a such smaller country if compared to Brazil. However, we have customers that are serving Brazil through Chile. So it's really important, like, to be try to be as neutral as possible, because we have that risk of having like customers preferring to be in a much more stable country than like taking the risk of deploying that infrastructure in Brazil.
We have one more question.
Thank you. Don't you think that energy supplier is not a challenge in Brazil if this boom in data center it comes? What about the energy? Do you have Brazil has already sufficient energy to provide the data centers?
I believe that one of the most important advantage that Brazil has today is the surplus of energy that we have today. So we have power availability in a level that no other country in the world has today, considering the investments, and if we consider the 90% from renewable sources, even better. So in terms of the supply chain, the concern is much more maybe about the constructions companies. They need to be prepared for this, not only considering the workforce, but considering even the investment capacity. Because when we are speaking about maybe the big companies, the big global companies of equipments, they have the possibility to produce everywhere. They can do investments faster, but when we think about the local companies, the construction companies, this can be a bottleneck for us. For this kind of growth that can come. So I believe that energy today is much more positive for Brazil in order to enable the country to be a hub, a data center hub in the future.
Yeah, and nowadays Brazil produces more power than we need, and also there are a lot of projects ready, approved, just waiting for new demand. Then Brazil is in a good shape regarding the power. For sure, the transmission line is the challenge that we are working. But regarding the generation, for sure, Brazil is in a good way.
Yes, and that will be like the key, right? So if we are thinking about the demand that's coming and it's location agnostic, and we can like place the data center in the Northeast, okay, power is not an issue. However, if you are thinking about deploying a data center that's close to São Paulo, then you'll face like a huge bottleneck related to the transmission. So it will depend on where that demand comes from. But if it's São Paulo, I would say that we are not that safe. So we need to deploy much more transmission to unlock that capacity to be here.
An additional point, it's the regulation itself to know that you actually have access to that amount of energy on that specific spot. It takes the 9 months to 14 months for you to get approval from Ministry of Mines and Industry, ONS, and so on. So this, to understand, time to market is something extremely important if those guys want to boost a project in a new region, because the customer wants to access energy and have this firm confirmation. It takes much time, although we have idle capacity in transmission line and in power generation in many areas. So I think we have one more here.
I think it's a quick question. Comparing Brazil and Chile, okay, in investment-wise, as Alessandro was saying that the cost of building a data center in Brazil, it is pretty expensive due to taxes. And in Chile, is the opposite, because the maximum that we have for products, it's like a 2 or 3% import duties. And on the other hand, Chile has seismic restrictions, right? So what would be a comparison between building a data center in Chile and in Brazil in terms of cost-wise?
So if you think about like the cost of the data center, just the piece that comes from the operator, I would say that Brazil is much more competitive. So even if we consider the taxation on the equipment, we are able to deploy a data center here at maybe half of what we need in Chile. However, when you take into account that for each dollar that we are investing, our customer is investing $7 in equipment, then Chile positions itself very competitive.
And to me, it's very important because we have not touched the sustainability. It is also true that Brazil has developed in the last decades a very important strategy of building more and more capacity of green power, and so we can build green AI here. Now in Chile, I was there 1 month ago. There are the Andes, beautiful mountains. You just don't see them because of the smog. So they forgot to plan the green energy, and they are most of the Brazilian data centers are not green powered. And that's also an issue for longer term kind of liabilities. And I think it's a bottleneck of their market, not being able to build green power capacity.
Okay, so if you can just have a last statement, or starting with Clayton.
So thank you for the opportunity to be here with you guys. Very good conversation. So we have an important opportunity, not to consider only the industry, the data center industry, but the country. So here in Brazil, it's a big opportunity ahead of us, not only for this industry, but to enable the country to be prepared for the future. So we need to consider and to work all together to do this.
Thank you very much, especially to the Tech Capital and to this fantastic conference. The first time that we stay 5. For us, it's an honor, of course. You are all giants, all the 5 together. Many compliments, and also Omnia, Nextstream, all the other big companies that are coming to the market all year. Many compliments to the Tech Capital.
Thank you all. It was important information that everyone can share with the market, and I can say that I'm so confident that the future for our industry, that we are in a good way. For sure, we need to fix this situation that we are working on regarding the taxation and the transmission line. But I'm so confident that we can fix it in a few months. And the demand for Latin America and Brazil will accelerate.
So thanks everyone for coming. Thanks Tech Capital for the opportunity. And I think it was an important opportunity to clarify that we are talking about like 2 specific opportunities of growth, right? Inference is going to come anyway. It's like cloud in 2010. It came to Brazil first. São Paulo is the biggest market. It's going to be the biggest market in inference as well. But if we work together here, not only as an industry, but as a cluster of industries, we can really have something as one of the global hubs of AI. And I think that's at play here, but timing is not on our side, but I think it became clear for everyone that Brazil has the advantage in LATAM. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you very much, Tech Capital, João, for the invitation. Thank you, Renan, for the moderation. Hopefully next year we are all here and discussing other issues, and the ones that we discussed today we were able to solve really fast. Thank you.
Thank you all for panelists. It was a pleasure moderating this panel. Thank you, João, Jack, and the team from the Tech Capital. I think this is an amazing opportunity for us to learn a lot. Thank you very much, and welcome to Brazil.